My name's Mike Nelson. My diving buddy, Jerry Thorpe, works out of a one-man office on the shore of Lake Ontario. This was his job. I was helping him check some cables on the bottom. They didn't look like much, but Jerry and I needed special security clearances just to inspect them, because these cables provided a direct link between a top-secret defense plant and U.S. Defense Headquarters in Washington. What the plant turned out, I didn't know, but it figured to be important. It was. We had another spot to check. Jerry indicated that we'd use our marker buoy as a checkpoint. We started away. Suddenly, something happened. The likes of which no one had ever before encountered. It produced the most tremendous underwater shockwave I'd ever known. Jerry took a beating. I got off light. We had to get out of the water in a hurry. We didn't know how soon we'd have to go back.
Come on aboard fast! Will you please? Come on, man, fast!
He's hurt. Okay, Skip, but I'll be all right. We gotta get him to a dock. We'll take care of that.
What is it? What's happened?
The captain will tell you.
Come in.
Wait here, please.
Yes, sir, the minute I know. I do understand, sir, and I'll get back to you immediately. It's Captain Olson. Look, don't give me that. I got to have some divers. Look, for all I know, Nelson and Thorpe are blown to pieces. Now get him, and that's all. Yes?
I have Mike Nelson outside, sir.
All right, bring him in here.
Yes, sir.
No calls except in the hot line.
You can come in now, Mr. Nelson.
Mike, are you okay?
Oh, I'm all right, sir. Thorpe got hurt, though.
That's too bad. You're going to have to do this by yourself. Now, what equipment would you...
How was he hurt? Fragment, shock, burns?
Atomic Energy Commission, Challenger, Dubay. Go ahead, Mike. Tell him how he got it.
Well, it was sort of a shock wave. Really knocked us around down there. Jerry got smashed up against some rocks. That's how he got hurt.
Well, did you see or feel any kind of a burst down there?
No.
Then it wasn't a missile.
Not enough data yet.
Please, I've been trying to find out what this is all about. What's happened?
We don't know. Nobody does. This thing came in like an ICBM over Labrador. That's where our radar picked it up. 7, 8 minutes ago. It was traveling too fast for visual sighting, just a white-hot streak across the sky. And what was sent up to stop it did.
Deflected it, though, possibly. Otherwise, we might not be here.
Wasting time. Now, look, we got exactly 22 minutes. Mike, I can't get any other divers here in time. Now, what do you need to locate this missile or whatever it is and identify it?
I still say it might be one of our own. An accident.
Look, we've checked every installation, overseas and here. It's not one of ours.
A meteorite.
Why not a flying saucer? Well, Mike?
Oh, whatever it is, it's deep in mud. Moving at such a tremendous speed, it's probably still giving off heat waves. That's it. That's the way we find it. With a thermocouple.
We've got one. Get him out there, Captain. We'll get it for him.
22 minutes, you said?
21. The Pentagon gave us exactly 30 minutes to identify the object, and a lot of things could have changed in the meantime.
What if they haven't? Will they wait?
We still got the 21 minutes. After that, maybe a national alert. It's a terrible responsibility. Challoner and Dubé will join you out there. In the meantime, we'll keep in touch by radio. Good luck, Mike.
Jerry, what are you doing here? I'm going with you. All our gear's on board.
You take it?
Doctor said it was okay.
All right, go on.
We had underwater radio equipment to keep us in contact with the AEC men on the cutter. I had a thermocouple to pick up heat waves from the object. Jerry had a Geiger counter. If the object were a missile, its skin might be radioactive. We might be able to locate it fastest that way. We had just 17 minutes left, and we had only a general idea where the object had hit. Our equipment would have to pinpoint it for us. The counter or the thermocouple, if either of them could.
Anything yet?
Not a thing.
Challoner to Olson. Search in progress now. Nothing yet. Over.
You have 16 minutes. Out.
Jerry had found it. His Geiger counter was reacting to some source of radiation, and his microphone setup was relaying it to me and to the scientists upstairs.
Challoner, come here! Listen to this.
It's faint.
still more than I expected.
Not for a missile, yes, but not if it came from outer space. You know, a meteorite could pick up a great deal of radiation passing through the Van Allen belt.
I'll tell Captain Olson. Challenger to Olson. Challenger to Olson. Over.
Together, we tried to home in on the radiation source. But the Geiger counter registered virtually no change. But suddenly, my heat radiation meter did. It indicated that we were within yards of an object almost as hot as molten steel.
It's down under that silt somewhere. Better not be far down. Silt's hard to get through fast. We need compressed air. Start digging. Maybe we can get it. Nelson to the bay.
It's on its way, Nelson. Compressed air, hoses, everything you'll need. We'll be sending it down any minute.
Good. How are we on time?
10.5 minutes.
Okay.
What's okay about it, I'd like to know.
Save your breath. We've got a long way to go.
Beta, Nelson. We're sending down the compressed air equipment. Stand clear.
Just a minute till we get out of the way.
No, wait!
Pete, look out!
Jerry was hurt. How badly, I didn't know. But he'd had it on this job.
Can you make it topside? Sure. Can you make it down here? Got to.
I couldn't even spare the time to take Jerry topside. I had only 9 minutes to finish the job. The most important job that I'd ever done. Compressed air jets drilled away steadily into the silt. The fast-rising temperature told me that I was coming closer and closer to the mysterious object that had streaked white-hot through the skies only 20-odd minutes before. Another few yards, and I might actually see it.
But, sir, we've got to have a little more time. But Nelson's within yards of it, sir. It can't take him any more than 10 to 12 minutes. Yes, sir, I understand it's an order. Put me through to the cutter. Captain Olson, the latest on Nelson, over.
Time for reaching the object is now estimated at 9 minutes.
We have 5 minutes, 15 seconds. Everything's coordinated now. Challenger, can't you speed it up?
No, those jets can't cut through that fast.
Look, ask Nelson to try. If he could just clear away enough to get an idea of the shape of the object, that might do it.
We can do it. The infrared scope. The scope will give him an exact picture of its shape. We'll drop it immediately. Out.
Captain Olson, stand by, sir. We'll have an idea of the shape of the object and probably the dimensions in about 60 seconds, sir.
Challoner dropped the infrared scope down to me while Dubé was still explaining what, how, and why. It worked. I clearly saw a blunt-nosed, rocket-shaped object, but only for an instant. The heat waves that it was still emitting hit with such intensity that the scope burned out. I relayed my flash impression to the experts upstairs.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah. Yeah, I got you. You are right. I'd hoped it would be a meteorite.
Not that. That's man-made.
Yeah.
Challoner to Olson. Over.
Yes, sir. It only lasted for a second on the scope, sir. But Nelson said it was definitely rocket-shaped. Yes, I am. Yes, sir, I'm positive. I'm sure that it didn't taper to a cone. Nelson said it looked squared off. Well, I agree with you, sir. It doesn't fit any known missile design. Well, sir, if we could just give Nelson a little more time to dig down... Yes, sir. 4 minutes, sir. Goodbye. All stations. Repeat, all stations. This is Captain Olson. Red alert in 4 minutes, less 7 seconds. It's Captain Olson, sir. Yes, sir, I've got an idea, sir.
Something wrong with that shape, Challoner. I know there is.
There's nothing wrong with it, except it hasn't gone off yet.
Olson to Challoner, over.
Challoner to Olson, over.
They're querying Nelson's report. Did he say that it was blunt at the front end?
Yes. Squared off.
That's what I told him. Now listen to me and give this to Nelson immediately. They're wondering if it's a missile at all. He's got 3 minutes, 42 seconds to find out it's not. You said he can't do it, but you tell him for me if he can blast his way down to it, he can prevent a catastrophe.
We'll tell him, Captain. I don't think there's even an outside chance. But I'm not signing off, not till 3 minutes, 36 seconds from now.
The message that Dubé passed down to me was an eye-opener. I don't know one end of an ICBM from the other. Still, it had never even occurred to me that the object could be anything but a missile. Now, Dubé was saying that it might be the byproduct of a peaceful scientific experiment. I had 3½ minutes to find out. I didn't have a stopwatch, but I knew that we were making time. The The water temperature climbed every second.
0 less 2 minutes, 12 seconds.
I didn't have time to fill Dubé in on what I was trying, but he could tell from the noise that I was at least trying hard.
I don't know, but it sounds as if there's 2 or 3 men down there helping him.
Even then, I don't see how I could make it.
Well, some pretty wonderful things have happened just that way down through the ages. Maybe this is one of them.
Amen.
Captain Olson. No, sir, no word from Nelson. Yes, sir, I've ordered a red alert effective throughout the area at 1346. It's now 0 minus 100 seconds, sir. Thank you, sir.
Zero less 1 minute, 30 seconds.
It couldn't be much deeper. If it were, I'd never get near enough to examine the object. It would be too hot even to look at.
0 less 70 seconds. Less 50 seconds.
Hey, Caroline. You hear me? I got to it.
Well, what's it look like? Can you tell?
Not so far. It's ours, Dubé. It's one of ours.
It's ours!
Challenger to Olson. Challenger to Olson, over. Challenger to Olson, for God's sake, answer me. It's 0 less 15.
Push the talk button, man. Push it.
Challenger to Olson. Challenger to Olson, over.
Olson to Challenger, over.
It's one of our space probes. Dropped out of orbit. Didn't burn up. It's one of ours, Captain. One of ours.
Olson to all units. Repeat, all units. Unidentified object, ours. Repeat, ours.
If you fellows aren't going to have an alert, I guess it's safe for me to come up now, huh?
Hi, I'm Lloyd Bridges, inviting you to join us for another action-packed story of underwater adventure 1 week from today.
Among the seas I've explored underwater, the Caribbean is one of my favorites. So it was a great pleasure to spend my vacation there. Then I accepted an urgent appeal from a buddy of mine named Pete Rogers to join him on an assignment in another part of the Caribbean. An assignment that turned these warm, sunlit waters into a death trap. Pete had left word for me upon my arrival that he'd be skin diving in the bay. The diver's flag indicated that he was underwater. See any air bubbles, but I figured that he was swimming some distance away from where he had his boat anchored. I had agreed to meet Pete, and there was no reason why I couldn't meet him underwater. I didn't see any sign of Pete. Then, some yards ahead of me, I saw him. There were no bubbles. Then I realized why. He was using a rebreather diving unit. A rebreather doesn't produce bubbles. But something was wrong with him. I had an idea what it might be. If the carbon dioxide level builds up on a rebreather, it can be deadly. I wondered why Pete had been willing to risk his life to test this experimental device. I didn't know that both our lives would soon depend on its operation.
Oh, you really had me worried. Why? I didn't see any bubbles. I thought you were a goner. You didn't notice I had a rebreather on? No, not at first. Pete, great to see you again, boy. Good to see you too, Mike. That's been a long time. Well, what's the assignment, huh? Follow me ashore and I'll tell you about it then.
20 minutes later, when I saw Pete's improvised laboratory, I realized what an ambitious project he was working on. Now, they're trying a workable rebreather.
Don't sound so doubtful. This isn't anything like the kind we experimented with in the Navy.
Rebreather theory is a great one, but I've yet to see one that's perfected.
This one's close to it. I've logged 8 hours testing it without anything serious going wrong.
Yeah? Well, I'll stick to my old-fashioned rig. The open circuit variety.
Can't, Mike. At least not on this project.
Why not?
The fellow I'm working for made it very clear that if I called you in, you were to be told nothing till he arrived.
What?
Oh, just be patient now. He'll be here in a couple of days.
Who is he? Do I know him?
No. No, I wanted you down here in advance because once we get the okay, we'll have to move fast.
Well, sounds interesting.
Liable to be a lot more than that, Mike.
Well, spying has always held a fascination for me.
What gave you that idea?
Well, the main advantage of a rebreather is the military one. No telltale bubbles, isn't that right?
You're fishing for information, chum. Save your breath.
Hey, wasn't around here someplace that Johnny Bailey had that accident? Was he testing one of those rebreathers of yours?
Wasn't ready then. If it had been, he probably wouldn't have been murdered.
Murdered?
Sometimes I talk too much.
That was all I could get out of Pete. For the next 2 days, I watched him put together a second rebreather. He wasn't satisfied with the way the other one was working. One of the big problems was to set up a trouble-free absorbent to eliminate the carbon dioxide that the lungs manufacture. The following morning, we put out to sea. Pete gave me the course. He obviously was heading for a particular spot, but I still hadn't been told anything, and I was getting a little annoyed with all this secrecy. Come on now, Pete, break down. What's with all this cloak and dagger stuff?
You'll know everything by tonight. Okay, Mike, this is the spot.
Now, why this particular spot?
Well, there's a good reason.
But you're not about to tell me.
Not till tonight. Now, how about trying out the rebreather? We'll have to get used to it sooner or later. I'll stay topside.
I was all set to dislike Pete's contraption, but I was agreeably surprised. The nitrogen in the air was recirculated. Oxygen was fed in automatically to replace what our bodies used. The carbon dioxide from our breath was absorbed by a special chemical. That's why the unit didn't leave a trail of bubbles. The dials on the front showed the oxygen supply and the CO2, or carbon dioxide level. The CO2 indicator was the most important to watch. If that level got too high for too long, I might never come up. I tested the unit in all positions. Everything seemed to check out right. I'd only been down a few minutes when I got Pete's signal to come up. I hadn't even started to give the rebreather a fair workout yet. It's a rush. I thought you wanted me to test this thing.
Oh, yeah, Mike, get out of there.
Why?
I don't want them to see it on you.
Who are they?
They'll think you just took this one off. Let me do the talking.
As the boat pulled alongside, I noticed that it was flying the American flag. I had a feeling that it didn't really belong there. May I come aboard?
Sure. Harry Porter, this is my friend Bill Seeley. Down from New York on vacation. Understand this is a great spot for skin diving.
Are you professional divers?
Far from it, Mr. Just businessman. What can we do for you?
You can move off into other waters.
How's that?
You're in private waters.
I thought this was open sea.
That haze in the distance. That's the shoreline of Monocaine. I own it and you're within the 3-mile limit.
I can't see what harm we're doing.
The point is, you're in violation of maritime law. I have a private agreement with the local government. These waters are reserved for the use of my friends. I trust you'll accept my warning rather than the necessity of force.
Doesn't make any difference to us. I suppose it's just as good diving outside your 3-mile limit. Sorry we caused you the trouble.
Well, goodbye, gentlemen.
Happy diving. Look at the hook.
I was hoping he wouldn't come. I was sort of making a test run.
To find out if he was on duty, huh?
Yeah.
You want to tell me about our friend? Is that what we're after?
Yes. His name's Frederick Jorgensen, a multi-millionaire. He's no friend. Not to the USA. The State Department's been worried about him for a good long time now.
You think he bought that story of yours about us being down here on a vacation?
No, it's going to make it a lot rougher. They'll be watching for us.
Where? The Mono Key?
If we can make it. Johnny barely did.
Oh, that's what happened to Johnny, huh?
That's what happened to him.
What's so important on that island?
Not on it. Underwater in a narrow channel leading to it. We think Jorgensen's secretly building an underwater submarine fuel dock.
When we returned to Pete's place on shore, someone was waiting for us. Pete introduced him as Robert Stone, but I had the feeling that a title belonged in front of that name, like Colonel or Commander, or maybe a secret agent.
Now, what we're specifically interested in are photos of the fuel dock and its exact location. Undoubtedly, Jorgensen will take every precaution to keep you away.
We'll need another week. The rebreathers need a lot more testing.
Well, what I'm trying to say is we haven't any time left. The rest of the equipment to complete the job will be delivered to Jorgensen in the next few days, and they'll be working down there. D-Day has got to be tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Why are we working through official channels on this deal?
We tried. No success. Maybe the local government is tied in with Jorgensen. Maybe they're just sleepy. I don't know. I do know we can't wait.
Our government is behind all this, isn't it? I mean, what we're doing?
Yes, unofficially.
I thought so.
Ostensibly, however, we're just private citizens, nothing else. If we're caught, we're on our own.
It's asking an awful lot of you, Mike. At least I've had some experience with the rebreather.
I had a good 2-minute workout with it today. How well guarded is this thing anyway, you know?
It's under 24-hour surveillance from the shore. Well, what do you say, Pete? Ready to go tomorrow?
Big problem is, will the rebreather work for the length of time required?
Well, I figure I can get you as close to Mono Key as you were today. How does that work for your airtime?
Well, figuring not more than 5 minutes in the channel. Just about on the nose. That is, there's no trouble with the rebreathers.
I see.
The success of our mission was going to depend on accurate timing. We studied our plans carefully because any mistake would probably be our last. We slept fitfully, and by dawn, we were heading for Mono Key.
Everything's to be seen. How much further?
There's a boat over there, heading this way.
Is it Jorgensen?
Yeah, looks like he's patrolling his waters.
Looks like we're out of luck.
Better make our dive before it's too late.
That's double the distance we figured on.
We just have to take it easy. We conserve our oxygen supply.
That'll mean surfacing a lot sooner than we'd planned.
Listen, you surface when you have to. As soon as I get your breaker signal, I'll come in for you.
We'll be well within the 3-mile limit.
Yeah.
Look, let me worry about that. You've got enough to take care of.
Come on. Do you make out about the two divers?
No, not now, sir.
I wonder if they took a chance on diving.
For the island? Not from this distance. It's impossible, sir. They'd never make it underwater.
Nevertheless, heading slowly toward Mono Key. If they're below, we'll see their bubbles.
Like the other American, huh?
Our objective, the channel of Mono Key, was due west. We checked our compasses and headed in that direction with easy movements, saving our strength for what we knew would be the harder job of getting back.
When we reach the channel, we shall anchor and wait for them.
That is if they're coming this way, sir?
Correct. So far, no bubbles, therefore no diver. But we shall take no chances.
So far, the rebreathers were working perfectly. Occasionally, a few bubbles escaped from our face masks, but not enough to give us away. I began to think the assignment might be a lot easier than we had anticipated. Now we were in the channel, and there ahead of us, we saw our objective. As Stone had said, it was still incomplete, but there was enough of it to send a grim shudder through me. We moved in for a closer look. I started taking pictures of it. We only had a few minutes to complete our job. Our schedule called for us to be finished in exactly 1 more minute.
They should have reached the channel by now. That is, if they're down there.
It's almost time for our divers to make their regular check. Shall I send them down now, sir?
No reason, really. We'll know by their bubbles if and when they get here.
I finished with 15 seconds to spare. I had the crucial photographs. The worst was over. Or so I thought. To complete our evidence, I was making notes on the slate, jotting down the bearings of the construction work. Pete was checking it against his compass. Just then, a connecting hose broke loose on Pete's rebreather. The bubbles were heading for the surface, and there was nothing that we could do about it. I had stopped the leak, but Pete's rebreather was useless. Now, forced to share the one working rebreather, we only had enough oxygen left for a few minutes. And when we exchanged the mouthpiece, a few more telltale bubbles were released. Jorgensen was using explosives. The explosions were far from us, but we felt the shock waves. We had to put as much distance between us and Jorgensen as possible, and there was no time to lose.
What is it?
They were bubbles.
Where? I don't see anything.
There were just a few. They're gone now.
They'd have to leave a continuing trail. We'll keep watch. Send the divers down.
Any more sign of them, sir?
No. But we better not take any chances. Check the entire channel.
Jorgensen's divers. If they spotted us, we were as good as dead. I noticed a ledge we could hide under. If we could stay concealed and buddy breathe without showing any bubbles, they might miss us. Now we had to get out of there before they turned back. Our oxygen supply was dwindling too fast. We seemed to have a sudden craving for air. I looked at the carbon dioxide gauge. The level was rising into the danger zone. The absorbent material was not working well enough. We had no choice now. We had to surface, no matter what. We saw Stone cruising in the distance. We had blinkers to signal with. Jorgensen's yacht was anchored, but we were within rifle range of it. We could only hope that Stone would spot them first and reach us in time.
Mr. Jorgensen, over there beyond the channel.
It's the same two divers. They're signaling for help. See if you can pick them off.
Being picked up, sir.
Hurry up.
They're getting out of range. Shall we go after them?
No reason, really. I would judge they were heading for the channel when they ran out of air. As long as they didn't make it, we're safe.
They're headed back. Well, that means only one thing. They think we didn't make it to their fuel dock.
Well, they'd be surprised.
Thanks to this rebreather of yours.
Thanks to this camera of yours, Mike.
Hello there. I'm Lloyd Bridges. Skin diving is fun and adventure for young and old, but it can be dangerous. So know the sport well and don't take any chances. Be with you next week for another exciting sea hunt.
Sharks are good for one thing, an argument. Some people say that they won't attack you unless you attack them, or interrupt them at feeding time. Others say a shark will charge the minute he sees you, that you're what he wants to feed on. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm a scuba diver, Mike Nelson, and I've run into my share of sharks. They haven't attacked me yet, but there's always a first time. And today, out here in the warm Pacific, might be it. I was looking for sharks. One shark, anyway, from marine land of the Pacific. I'd found some. A couple were circling in. They were of a type known to have attacked men. One of them was eating some bait that I'd put out. He was biting off a big chunk with a characteristic shaking motion. My job was to deliver him alive to marine land. I'd have to knock him out first with a massive shot of sleeping medicine. For a hypodermic, I was using my spear gun. Its tip was coated with a sedative that wouldn't dissolve in water. All I had to do was get close to my target, hit him in some non-vital spot, wait for the sedative to work, and lug him topside. That was all. I was lucky. I hit him in one of the right spots, and delivered him to another spot, marine land of the Pacific, the organization which had given me the order to catch him. Next day, my shark was swimming in one of the marine land tanks. He wasn't ready to be shown to the public yet, but he was being observed by 2 uninvited visitors, and they didn't come just to watch.
This is closed.
Hey, Daddy, play it cool, play it cool. Just go on.
Hey, Mike, look at your shark. It's dying. Hey, you two!
Stop traffic at all exits. Repeat. Stop traffic at all exits.
Were Cougar Norris and Jocko Palmer. They wanted to be tough. They'd had no reason for poisoning the shark. Kicks, they said. A vicious and criminal act. For kicks. We could have turned them right over to the police. Instead, we sent for their parents and tried to figure out what to do.
Look,
You figure what it's worth and I'll pay you. Then take it out of the boy's hide.
You don't understand, Mr. Palmer. Paying for the shark will do no good.
And you can't just go out and buy a shark, Mr. Palmer.
I wouldn't know about that. That's your business.
Catching a shark, like the specimen the boys destroyed, is tedious and dangerous. It takes a great deal of skill and courage. Well, don't you believe that, son?
You got the floor, man.
Edward, I don't know what I'm going to do with you.
Ma, will you get off me?
Edward.
Just leave me alone, eh?
Edward.
What are we gonna do? You gonna put him in jail? Might do him some good.
What do you think, Mike?
Well, I certainly don't like the idea of putting a kid in jail, not if it can be avoided. I don't understand about you two. Tell me, now, why would you do a thing like that, huh?
Look, Dad, if you're going to put us in jail, go ahead, but leave me alone.
Hey, Coog, I don't want to go to jail, man.
Well, don't you think you ought to be punished in some way for what you've done?
His old man offered to buy you a new shark, didn't he?
Now, what about your old man? What would your father say about what you've done?
Leave him out of this. Just never mind about that.
Edward's father's in the Veterans Hospital. He's been sick for a long while. I suppose it's my fault the boy's so wild.
Well, putting him in jail is not going to accomplish anything. What do you fellas think about all this, huh? What would you like to do? You like to make amends? You like to replace that shark?
I already offered to do that.
That's not what I mean. Well, what do you say? Rather go to jail, huh?
No, I'm willing. How about you, Coog?
How are you going to get a live shark? Go out and catch one?
Yes.
What? You mean go down and wrestle with one of them big things with teeth this long?
After proper training, yeah, that's exactly what I mean.
I could do it if I wanted to.
Isn't it awfully dangerous?
Oh, not really. If you know what you're doing.
Big deal.
Well, you couldn't do it, Cougar. If something happened down there, you'd probably panic, and that'd be it.
And what makes you think I'd panic?
Oh, that's wild, man. Way out. Cougar's got it right every time. Look at this job right here.
Wait a minute, poisoning that captured shark in the tank? You think that took courage to do a stupid thing like that? You're kidding.
Well, you think it takes guts to hunt sharks? Well, we'll hunt sharks with you. Anything you can do, we can do.
Hey, Coog.
We'll show him who panics.
Cougar claimed to be real brought down. But I think that he was more relieved than Jocko when I told him that we weren't going hunting right away. Certain preliminary steps had to be taken first, like learning how to survive underwater, which isn't so easy, even without sharks. That meant a concentrated short course in very practical scuba diving. Prerequisite, an A in swimming. Cougar and Jocko qualified easily. After they'd mastered such fundamentals as clearing the mouthpiece and the face mask, we worked on taking off and replacing the whole breathing unit. They worked hard at learning all the rest that they didn't know. Not just because that I made them work. They were fascinated by the new underwater world. I've never had more determined students. In Cougar's case, bitterly determined. He hated me. So much that I think he'd have drowned before conceding there was anything that I could do that he, with a little training, couldn't do as well. Or better. Emergency packs, balloons inflated with carbon dioxide. They learned to shoot spear guns with accuracy. Finally, I was satisfied that they had mastered the basic requirements.
Thanks, Pat.
How did I find out? You, Jocko?
No, I did. Well, this session did it.
Did what?
You're skin divers now, both of you. All checked out, ready to go. Congratulations.
Hey, we're skin divers. We can start catching sharks now, huh?
No, now you can start learning how to catch them. Out here, about 10 miles out, around 60 or 50 feet down. Well, what do you say? Want to give it a try?
Hey, this is for real, huh?
Well, you want to replace that shark that you killed, don't you?
Yeah, sure. Huh, Cougar?
If he says so, let's go.
Good. I got something for you. Something your dad gave me to give you.
What? 2-cent postcard?
No. A silver star that your dad got a Bougainville.
What am I supposed to do? Must start crying?
We might find a shark from Marineland. Cougar said hardly a word, but then I didn't give him or Jocko much chance to. I was too busy explaining the use and abuse of a spear gun.
Man, ought to be to go up against the scorpions with a couple of these. Wow.
Shut up. Go on, Dad.
You won't be doing too much of that, huh?
I'll let you know.
Shall I continue? I've said this before, but I'm going to keep on saying it because it's important. You remember, never point this at anyone, even if it's on safety. And even if it's uncocked like it is now. A good rule to remember is don't cock this gun until you're underwater with it. Is that clear? Everything I've been saying. Don't point this spear gun at anything unless you intend to kill with it. Lectures were over. Now it was time for work in the ocean. I didn't expect to find any sharks this first time out. For obvious reasons, I hope not to. I just wanted my students first to get used to scuba diving in open water. I also wanted them to fire their spears, the first few times anyway, at targets that couldn't strike back. The targets I had in mind, yellowtail, bonita, or some other food fish, weren't cooperating, at least not visibly. We'd have to go looking. So we looked over quite an area. It was good exercise, but that was all. Not one good-sized fish in sight, even though the last radio reports claimed these waters were boiling with them. The reports were wrong, or the fish had been frightened off, perhaps by sharks, or by other natural enemies.
Despite my careful instructions, Jocko cocked his spear gun before he had a target for it. He stalked through the seagrass. Suddenly, a barracuda popped up in front of him. He panicked and aimed at it wildly. Cougar saw him. I didn't. Jocko shot his spear. Cougar shoved me aside and was hit himself. When I pulled the spear out, I saw that it had not inflicted a serious wound. His buddy, Jocko, had suffered both ways. In his panic, he had forgotten rule number 1 for undersea survival. Keep breathing out. Instead, he was holding his breath, building up pressure inside his lungs that might cause a fatal embolism when he surfaced. When I realized what he was doing, I had to punch him in the stomach to force him to breathe out. By the time we got topside, I was fairly sure that Jocko would be all right. But I wasn't so sure about Cougar. Not psychologically, anyway. What had happened could make him more arrogant than ever.
Get that tank off of him. Take his top off him, huh? Mate, I'm sorry. You know I wouldn't do you like that. Shut up! After all you've done for me, I gotta give it to you. You want to shut you for good? Nothing the matter with me. I don't need all that jazz.
Yes, you do. A scratch underwater is dangerous. And this isn't just a scratch.
Okay, fix it.
That was a remarkable job you pulled down there. Thanks.
Forget it. I didn't want anything to happen to you.
I appreciate it.
Until I got my chance to show you, Dad.
All right. I'll disinfect this. He showed me. You didn't panic.
That spear, you mean? I've never been afraid of steel in my life. That don't mean anything. But a shark, that I gotta find out about. Only this creep you had to foul it up.
Oh, yeah? Hold us. How'd he do that?
I'm washed out now, ain't I? I can't dive with a bum shoulder.
No, not today. After I put a waterproof bandage on it, I'll be able to dive tomorrow. Cougar's spear slash healed well overnight. I felt safe in letting him dive with me again next morning. But I held back on Jocko. His lack of experience made him a little too likely to panic. And staying topside wouldn't break his heart. That was for sure. Cougar wanted to prove himself, all right. And I was out to capture his shark.
So this time I coated our spear tips with a sedative drug and prayed that he'd remember to aim for some non-vital spot and not shoot to kill. We scouted the Barracuda's lair first, but he was gone. That seemed to be the story in the Sharks, too. They certainly weren't within sight. I decided to give it another few minutes before heading back. We gave it 5 more minutes, but the Sharks were still among the missing. It was about time to surface now. But not according to Cougar. Standing up to a shark seemed more important to him at the moment than underwater safety. But while I was trying to convince him, I suddenly sighted a shark. Now, I was curious to see just how eager he still was. He was more than eager. He cocked his spear gun and moved out ahead of me. Cougar was rushing it. I should have expected it, but I was still surprised. I hoped that his determination would guarantee a hit, but his near miss guaranteed trouble instead. Unless I could do better. From the way the shark was heading toward us, I knew that I'd have to do better. I cocked my spear gun and waited for my chance. I did do better. I hit him. But he twisted and squirmed and shook off the spear. I had no idea if the tip had gotten enough sedative into him to knock him out. But I couldn't wait to find out. Once I got hold on him, I didn't dare let go. Cougar hadn't run. I could see him waiting for his chance to help me. The shark knew that it was in a death fight, and so did I. I was losing. If the drug didn't work soon, I would lose. And then it happened. The massive dose of sedative on my spear tip was taking effect. The killer was falling asleep.
I really want to thank you, Don.
For what? I haven't paid you yet. For Cougar.
What do you mean, pay us?
Well, you did a tremendous job. That's where you usually get paid for what you do. I figure about $200 each. I'll take care of him when we get ashore.
Wait a minute. What are they paying you to bring in the shark?
Never mind.
I figure about $400. Give the dough to Marineland, Dad. We're buying them a shark.
I'll be back next week at the same time with another sea hunt story. Plan to be with us again, huh?
radiation is all around us. This heat can be used as a kind of invisible light, infrared light. With special equipment, it can be seen, photographed, and measured. I'm Mike Nelson. My companions and I were testing new detecting equipment that could make it possible to apply these principles underwater. That's why I was here, in the Indian Ocean, hunting this kind of invisible light. I was working with one of the most brilliant scientists in the field. He was a young, Oxford-educated East Indian. His name was Dr. Jamal Singh. With us was Swedish-born Risa Helvig. Risa was decorative, but that wasn't all. She was also an apprenticed scientist and secretary of the International Oceanographers Institute. The Institute was sponsoring the doctor's work. We were only one of 6 units doing experimental work on new kinds of underwater equipment. The others, like us, were working from scientific vessels strung out along the coastline at various points. We would meet later at a designated spot to compare notes. We had found a lot of valuable answers for our research. Then we found something that we weren't looking for. Dr. Singh dropped his detector. We were startled by what happened. The device was already being sucked down into the bottom. We needed that detector, but I knew that it would be dangerous to try and get it out. I motioned to Singh to hold onto my foot, while I moved in cautiously. There was a job pulling the detector out. The bottom was exerting a strong suction on it. What we had discovered was a surprise to us, but not new to science. It was soft ocean bottom, loose sediment, filled into depressions in the ocean floor. I looked back and saw that the depression had already filled in. I felt a distinct chill. It wasn't from the water.
You drink or something?
Rather a nasty experience down there.
Nasty? That's the understatement of the year, Dr. Singh. It gives me chills just thinking about it.
Me too. I must say, Doctor, I didn't expect to find a condition like that down there.
We haven't run across it very often in these waters.
Now, if I never run across it again, it'll be all right with me.
Yeah, but you want to watch out for it, though. Especially when there's not much water movement down below, on the bottom.
Is that what makes the bottom so soft?
Yeah.
Yes. You see, there are layers and layers of soft sediments, sand, silt, or clay, filled into pockets in the ocean floors. The condition can become most dangerous.
Just look at that goo, huh? If we're to continue our work here, it's going to be like hanging onto a tiger by a tail.
Maybe we should discontinue our work here. I mean, move on to another area.
I'm afraid that's something you'll have to decide, Mike. Personally, I'd prefer to continue working here. We've invested a lot of valuable time in studying the prevailing conditions here and adjusting the equipment to them.
Yeah, I know we have. And if we move on, we're going to have to start all over again.
Right.
We'll keep on here. But on one condition. Racer, you're going to have to remain aboard from now on.
Of course, I'll do whatever you wish in this matter, Mike. But...
Oh, the doctor will be all right. He's a good diver. He's careful. Not that you're not, but...
But I'm a woman.
That's for sure. No, it's just that I'm afraid, Risa, that you might get bogged down and you wouldn't have the strength to free yourself.
Well, in that case, I'll just have to work out with barbells every day from now on and work up muscles like Atlas. You'll see.
Well, before you do that, you'd better get to work right here. We've got to start setting up the equipment if we're going to run medium-range tests on infrared detection today.
Yeah. Daylight's going. We've got to take advantage of all the time we possibly can. Teresa, you want to get Oh, you can work on that, all right, fine. With the equipment above water set up on the deck of the boat, I made sure that everything was in order below water. I'd already attached a sensitive infrared pickup to the hull. The cable would connect this detector with the analyzing and computing equipment on board. I signaled Teresa to check the equipment. On deck, Risa could operate the pickup on a directional rotor that accurately indicated compass bearings. After all the equipment above board and below had been checked out, I would swim out with cables from the boat to meet the doctor and couple it with cables from the station at a halfway point between the station and the boat. Dr. Singh had set off on the water with cables, couplings, and equipment to set up the underwater station for our medium-range tests. The station would produce infrared radiation by which we could test our detectors. Dr. Singh was carrying a heavy load of steel-clad cable. He checked his compass to keep moving in the right direction. He forgot that the mass of cable could throw a compass off completely. He was already moving steadily in the wrong direction. Take a look at that.
Oh, my! It works!
Yeah, it sure does. Of course, this is very close range. The real test is how accurately we can continue to detect the radiations. And from how far.
But it's the beginning. Now I know how Newton felt.
Yeah, but he only had an apple to keep his eyes on. You got all this equipment to watch out for. We expect you to take care of the situation, too.
Oh, don't worry about me. I got an easy job. It's you and Dr. Singh I'm concerned about.
Hold that for me for a second, will you? Okay, thanks. swam down with the cables. We had agreed to meet at a certain time, and to make it, I'd have to work fast. I arrived at the place where I was supposed to meet Dr. Singh. The doctor wasn't there. It could have taken longer than planned to set up the underwater station. Still, I was worried. If I could have seen Singh at that moment, I would have been even more worried, because he was lost. His deviated compass was rapidly leading him farther and farther from our zone of operations. I checked the time and my bearings. I started looking for him, but I didn't know exactly where he was going to set up the underwater station. Dr. Singh had been careful, but not careful enough. In his haste and confusion, he had already stumbled into a treacherous bog of soft sediment. The heavy cables were wrapped around him, and he couldn't get rid of them. The suction was beginning to pull him slowly but surely downward. I couldn't find any sign of the station or the doctor. I knew that somehow, some way, he had gotten lost. When I started to search for Dr. Singh, I let go of the cables. I knew that when Risa saw the slack, she would be worried. But I couldn't stop to think too long about Risa then. I had to find the doctor. Ordinarily, if he got lost, he could just surface. But this area was filled with soft floor. The slightest touch broke the crust, and with the weight Singh was carrying, he could really get in trouble. He managed to reach one of his flares and get it out of the muck. He ignited it, but it was a dud. Despite anything that he could do, he was sinking deeper and deeper each minute. He knew that he'd soon be finished. Looking for anything lost underwater in the ocean is never easy, especially in an area where the sediment on the bottom is dangerously soft. I had wasted enough time looking for Dr. Singh. I decided to get back to the boat. By the time I got back to the boat, Risa Helvig had already put in a call for help to the other research vessels in the area and for planes to scan the surface. But Risa wasn't fooling herself.
Did you see any trace of him?
Nope. I was in hopes he was here.
I did everything you told me. I notified the rest of the expedition. But by the time they get here, it'll be too late, won't it?
Unless he's on the surface. And if he's not... Where are the binoculars?
Up there.
see any bubbles. It's too big an area to set up a search pattern underwater, that's for sure. We never get to them in time.
What are we going to do, Mike?
He's going to be out of air, I'm sure of that. We got all that equipment. Let's use it.
Only a few minutes later, we got a picture on the scope that looked like a man swimming.
Figure out the bearing and give it to me.
Good luck.
I didn't find the doctor. What I did find didn't help matters any. The detector had picked up a shark, a white tip, one of the kinds called man-eaters. If something had happened to the doctor, if he had hurt himself, it could attract every shark in the neighborhood for miles around. We got another signal. This would be it. But it wasn't. What the detector had picked up was a strong updraft of a warm current, stirring up a cloud of silt from the bottom. And I was wasting precious time. The very weak signal we got turned out to be coming from a large boiler, part of the wreckage of a ship. The corrosion process must have been radiating a very small amount of heat. I was glad our equipment was so sensitive, but it still wasn't finding Dr. Singh. I knew that he had taken along a couple of flares for the tests. As I headed back to the boat, I kept hoping that Singh had used one of them and that Risa had picked it up on the detector. I had to find Dr. Singh within the next 10 minutes. After that, when and if I found him, about the only thing that I'd be able to do for him would be to bury him. As close as I could figure, he had less than 10 minutes of air left in his tanks.
Come here. I've got something. What does that look like to you?
Heat radiation from a flare.
That's what I thought.
Quickest way to get there is by boat.
I knew the race was close, but just how close, I wouldn't know until later. A minute later, I was in the exact spot indicated by the bearings in the finder. I had an extra air tank and regulator with me. The infrared detector had worked. There was Dr. Singh, waving a flare. I wasn't any too soon. The flare burned out as I approached. I gave him air from the extra tank. To get him out, and without getting caught myself, I signaled him to be patient. Didn't help. I realized the manpower wouldn't do the job, but we couldn't wait for heavy equipment. The boat might do it. The cable, which was weighing him down now, could be of use. If I could attach it to the stern, I figured that I could get him out. Cable was in place. At a signal from me, Risa put the boat in motion. Minutes, Dr. Singh was safely on board.
Hey, let me take your weight down low. Take off, boy. Get him on that chair. Ah, you're gonna be all right, Doc. Yeah. How you feeling now, huh?
I feel wonderful.
Wonderful?
What do you mean? Yes, wonderful. The equipment works.
Hi, I'm Lloyd Bridges, inviting you to join us for another action-packed story of underwater adventure 1 week from today. business is diving, but sometimes I feel as if it's explosives. I've had my share of them in the water. I had some bad moments rescuing a boy trapped in a cave with a toy that he found. A time bomb. I scared myself to death carrying cans of nitroglycerin for a demolition job. Carefully packed, but as sensitive as delicate crystal. I've had to disarm a free-floating mine tangled in kelp, corroded but still lethal. But a sunken vessel lying peacefully on the bottom of a Caribbean harbor gave me the most frightening experience that I've ever had. It was a time bomb, set to blow up an entire city. I came to San Felipe in response to a frantic cable from an old friend, Dr. Jim Felton. A munitions ship had been sabotaged by revolutionaries a few hours ago. At any moment, it might blow up the entire harbor. They needed an expert diver immediately.
Mike, I'm glad to see you. Nice to meet you. This is Captain Vargas of the police. This is Mike Nelson, the friend I was telling you about. I'll brief you as quickly as possible.
Oh, you don't have to do that. Driver's already filled me in.
Oh, good.
But, what I don't know is why. What do they hope to gain?
There's a small group, radicals mostly, who were defeated in the last election. So now they're trying force to gain power. They have set time fuses to the dynamite. And unless the Presidente allows them a majority in the council, they're going to let it explode.
Well, why don't you just evacuate the area and let it explode?
Senor Nelson, this is the capital of San Felipe and our only seaport.
The harbor and the government would be destroyed.
Is that much dynamite?
50 tons.
We have approximately 100,000 people living here. We sounded the alarm and some have evacuated. But the rest we cannot get out in time.
There is no telling what havoc such an underwater explosion might do. It could cause thousands of deaths.
Who's he?
Luis Hoyo, one of the saboteurs. My men captured him when he telephoned the Presidente with the ultimatum.
Does he know when the dynamite's going to go off?
Yes, he does. But he won't talk.
Where is that ship?
Right in the middle of the harbor.
Mike, this isn't your country and it isn't mine. But I have a great feeling of loyalty for these people. I'm sorry to put you on the spot. I know that no amount of money could pay you for a job like this. But I can't think of anything else.
Well, I can. A nice stretch of beach in Miami that I just left. Okay, Jim. I'll get my gear.
Senor Nelson, this good luck charm has helped me many times. Please take it with you.
Thanks.
Mike, forgive me for getting you into this mess. I wouldn't have blamed you if you turned me down.
Well, you seem to be pretty sure it's not going to blow until the night.
Truthfully, we can't be sure of anything until you investigate. Buena suerte.
Captain Vargas had given me the bearings of the sunken ship, but it still might be difficult to find. I was lucky. I was right on top of it. The Angelina rested peacefully on the bottom like many other sunken vessels that I'd seen, except that this one was a huge time bomb. The first thing to do was to send up a buoy to mark the location. I needed to locate the dynamite and determine how it was rigged. Angelina. I wondered if that word was derived from Angel. I hoped that I wasn't going to see one on this trip. I tried to keep myself from asking, what am I doing here? I had to keep clearly in mind that this harmless-looking ship contained 50 tons of time-fused dynamite. I couldn't find anything suspicious. Was this whole thing an empty bluff? Suddenly, I saw some insulated wire leading into a cabin. Now was the time to be extra cautious. The saboteurs may have expected an inquisitive diver and set booby traps. Even in the war, I don't remember seeing so much explosives in one small place. Detonating wires were leading in many directions. I would have cut them, but that might in itself trigger the explosion. My biggest problem was that the timing devices were probably scattered around the ship. It was impossible to determine how the dynamite was rigged and whether booby traps were set. The danger was too great. I couldn't go this alone, blind. There was nothing to do but tell Captain Vargas and Jim that their worst fears were justified.
Well, I found one of the charges. The dynamite's rigged, all right. But I was afraid to do anything about it. It's a pretty complicated setup. Hoyo is our only chance, if we can get him to talk.
We'll get him to talk. Tráiganlo. I have seen this country through 2 civil wars and several tyrants. For the first time in San Felipe's history, we have an honest democratic government, and we're making progress. And now you and a handful of crazed radicals are attempting to destroy what we have already built.
They tell me that the Presidente is false, that the council is out for its own gain. Do you believe that?
I don't know. I follow orders. I don't know what to think.
Think of the people you will kill, Luis.
For the last time, are you going to help us? I cannot. Very well. You have a family, don't you?
Yes.
They are hiding in the hills, aren't they?
You would not harm them.
No. But we know exactly where they are. And we will notify them of your fate.
What do you mean?
Unless you speak now, we'll take you out on a rowboat and drop anchor right over the dynamite. Well? Llévenselo.
I think he's carrying things a little too far.
You don't understand these people, Mike. It's the only thing that'll work. But don't worry. It's just a bluff.
When's it gonna happen? That dynamite, when's it set to go off?
5 o'clock tonight.
How ironic. There's a cannon up on that hill, and they fire it every day at 5 o'clock as the flag is lowered. It's a salute to the democracy.
Yeah? It'll be nothing compared to this salute, unless we do something about it. Let's get those handcuffs off them.
I was surprised to learn that Hoyo was a skin diver himself. He even volunteered to help me locate and inactivate the detonators. This was too easy. He seemed to have changed skins. We had arrived at the rigged ship. I just hoped my guide was as wary of the danger as I was, because it was only an hour and a few minutes till whoom. Hoyo had explained that there were 5 detonators and that they were booby-trapped. But they would be safe if disarmed in the right order. I prayed that he was right. The first detonator was behind the life preserver. I disarmed it by cutting the wires with a clipper. 1 down, 4 to go. Less than 40 minutes remained until the explosion. We still had 4 detonators to find and disconnect. Hoyo led me back to the cabin where the explosives were kept. He thought that was where number 2 detonator was. He didn't seem certain of the exact spot. I was underwater on a sabotaged ship loaded with 50 tons of dynamite. It was time-fused to explode in less than an hour. My unwilling diving partner, one of the saboteurs, had left me there helpless.
What is it?
I'm not sure. It seems that one of them is coming back on the launch.
He's gone under again. What do you make of it?
The more I struggled, the more tightly wedged in I became. Hoyo hadn't run out. He'd found a crowbar, and I couldn't tell whether he was going to kill me or save me with it. He didn't seem to be sure himself.
Estación número 1. Habla el capitán Vargas. Sí, comprendo. Estamos haciendo todo lo posible por desconectarlos. Bien. ¿Cómo? Vaya, me alegro. Gracias. I assure the council we're attempting to inactivate all the fuses. They're scouring the hills for the remaining saboteurs. I think they will find them in a few hours.
That won't help here.
No. Our fate is in Senor Nelson's hands. Jim, it is my duty to be here. You don't have to risk your life.
As long as Mike is out there, I'll stay here.
Hoyo had saved my life, but he had been mistaken about the second detonator. We found it hidden in a ventilator funnel. I checked my watch and realized that Hoyo would soon be out of air. The third one was in the captain's cabin. Hoyo pointed out the wires concealed in the floor. I traced them to a corner. We quickly disconnected the third detonator. As we left the captain's cabin, I noticed Hoyo didn't look right. He was showing signs of fatigue. He was having trouble clearing his mask. I couldn't waste any time, but I'd still have to take him to the surface. We had very little time left, and Hoyo looked in a bad way. If he couldn't show me or tell me where the last two detonators were, I'd never find them in time.
You gonna be able to make this dive with me? No, you're not going to be able to. Hoyo! Come on now. Tell me where those other fuses are located. Quickly, Hoyo! We only have a few more minutes left.
One of them, I think, is 12 minutes to 5.
Come on, where?
Under the bow.
All right. The other one.
The last one is...
Hoyo, please, come on, Hoyo, tell me.
The last one is...
With only minutes remaining, and with two detonators left to cut, I had to dive back down to the Angelina alone. I traced another line along the rail, and there was the fourth detonator where Hoyo had said, under the bow.
Jim, Hoyer's bringing the launch in.
I was on my own as far as the fifth one was concerned. Hoyo had passed out before he was able to tell me. The detonator could be right under my nose, and I could still miss it. I knew if I could find it, if I had time. And that's just what I didn't have. In a few minutes, there wouldn't be any time left for the Angelina, or for me, or for the harbor.
How much time does he have? Seconds. It's 5 o'clock.
It looks.
Come on, look. Vayan en la lancha por señor Nelson, pronto. Muchas gracias, señor Nelson. Regreso a la cárcel y que le den de cenar.
Sí, Capitán. I gotta see that Hoyo gets a break. Among other things, he saved my life. Captain Vargas, I'd like to talk to you about Hoyo. I'm sorry if I'm a little jumpy, but...
It's a salute to a brave American. I arrange it, Senor Nelson. Double charge.
Well, thanks just the same. But if it's all the same to you, I prefer it without the sound effects.
Hi, I'm Lloyd Bridges, inviting you to join us for another action-packed story of underwater adventure 1 week from today.
Miniaturization is one of the great strides being made these days in every form of electronic equipment. That's why I found myself in deep water off the California coast testing a new, compact, self-powered, self-contained underwater radar unit. Something was happening to this radar screen, but there was nothing wrong with the unit. It was being jammed by something in the area, as efficiently as we jammed enemy radar during hostilities with strips of metal foil. At least that's the way it looked to me. Before I made up my mind, though, I decided that I better check it out against a full-size radar unit, which had been installed on my boat topside. Same funny reaction up here. Something in the field was really raising electronic cane. I wondered if the big coastal scanning units were getting the same crazy pattern on their screens. I decided that I'd better report what I discovered.
Coast Guard radio, WM2050, over. Coast Guard radio, WM2050, over.
There's one advantage to being a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. You know who to call, and you know that they'll be there on the double. As the cutter swept in, I recognized an old buddy of mine, Lieutenant Bob Camp.
Come on aboard, Bob. I want to show you something. Please.
Don't tell me you need help, Mike.
Yeah. Hey, I want you to take a look at this, huh? This in here?
Looks all right to me, Mike.
What? It's all right now. A few minutes ago, that screen was a mess of scrambled eggs. You couldn't have identified anything.
Mike, aren't you over-dramatizing this just a little? We're not at war.
Isn't that why we have things like coastal warning setups? So that if anybody gets a bright idea to jump us, we won't be asleep?
Well, yes, that's very true, but there are also navigational aids. Come on, Mike.
Well, we're not kidding. This could be something important.
Michael, if something did happen to cause this, what did you call it?
Blind spot, that's what it was. As far as the radar eye was concerned, it was blind.
All right, blind spot. Now, if this happened, don't you think the coastal scanning units would have picked it up? Don't you think they know what they're doing?
Sure, that's why I called you. I want to check, find out if the same thing was happening to them. That's why I anchored here. Mark our position. Look, I've been checking this underwater radar up and down the coast through all kinds of weather. I never had a reaction like that before.
All right. I'll make a report of it, but don't worry too much about it, all right?
Well, I don't see why I should. You're certainly not.
Well, so don't. I'll make a report to Commander Adams. But in the meantime, just forget about it. All right?
Bob Camp had really given me a brush off, no doubt about it. And what he'd also done was convince me that something big was cooking on this radar deal, especially when he'd mentioned Barney Adams' name. Lieutenant Commander Adams was the intelligence officer for the sector. I decided that I'd go see Barney myself. I waited outside while the yeoman on duty announced me.
Commander Adams is not going to be able to see you right now, Mr. Nelson.
Well,
How long do you think it'll be, do you know?
I'm sorry, sir. I don't think you understand. He won't be able to see you at all.
Well, did you tell the commander it was important?
Yes, sir. I gave him your message.
He still wouldn't see me?
I'm sorry, sir.
You know Lieutenant Camp? Bob Camp?
Yes, sir.
Is he in there? Is Lieutenant Camp in there?
You'll have to excuse me, Mr. Nelson. I have an awful lot of work to do.
My first impulse was to be angry. And then I realized that there had to be a reason for the odd behavior of my Coast Guard friends. I didn't know what the reason could be, but I was just burned enough and stubborn enough to take another look. So I headed back to sea, to the same area where my radar set had gone wild. I searched carefully underwater, but there was no disturbance now. The set was functioning absolutely normally. I couldn't help feeling a little frustrated, knowing that I had bumped into something important and not being sure what it was. But the blind spot was gone, and without more information, it looked like all I could do was forget the incident. I had resigned myself to forgetting it till I surfaced, where I was hailed by a familiar figure on my boat. Bob Camp was dressed in civvies, but I was sure that he wasn't out here for fun.
Been looking for your blind spots again?
Uh-huh.
You've done it quite a while. Any luck?
No.
I understand you gave our yeoman a pretty hard time.
He's a good man. He told me the commander wouldn't see me, and he made sure that he didn't. He wouldn't even tell me if you were in there with him.
I was, you know.
Yes, I know. That was quite an act he put on. You too.
Well, I'm sorry, but it was necessary.
That's what I finally figured out. Well, you want me to file a report now?
No. As of now, you're working for Commander Adams.
Oh, I am, huh?
So let's get this thing started and head for the Coast Guard dock.
Okay.
I headed in with Camp. On the way, he let me in on a couple of facts. The blind spot that I'd encountered was no accident. It was a man-made phenomenon. And if the nature of the jammer was not discovered immediately, there would be a hole in our coastal defenses any time that an enemy chose to use it. But the big facts came from Camp's boss,
who had stalled me off before. Barney Adams. Just what does it accomplish, jamming a small radar section like this?
I'll tell you what it accomplishes. It creates devastating navigational problems. It opens this country up like a big ripe plum.
Why? We've got other warning devices.
We do, but we're testing and improving our systems constantly. We try every trick we can think of. One of our tricks was to fly a jet plane at treetop level, undetected by radar. Now, this is the curvature of the Earth. Here's your radar beam. Now, this is the flight of the jet.
Uh-huh. So anything below this radar beam is undetected, huh?
That's right. Man-made obstructions make it even worse. You see, inland radar doesn't come all the way down to the ground. You understand that?
Yeah, sure. But what I don't understand is what all this has to do with that blind spot that I ran into.
It has everything to do with it. Coastal radar can come all the way down to the water level.
Huh?
A plane that got by the coastal sweep might stay at a low altitude and never be detected inland.
Coastal radar is plenty crucial.
Well, there's more to it than that. The coastal radar warning system is sectionalized. The jamming attempts on record have all taken place in our area. And 2 previous blind spots have been reported. Yours was the 3rd.
Oh, so that's why you were so mysterious about this, huh?
I tried to be. This 3rd one has given the Coastal Defense Command some idea of pattern. What we have to do now is to get enough information to set a possible date, time, and place of the next attempt. Now, I'm in touch with Naval Intelligence, the Air Force Early Warning Squadron, and the Central Intelligence Agency. Now, the first recorded jamming was circular, between 2 of our sections.
That's right over here, huh?
That's right. The second was better placed, but it missed covering the depth of the section.
Right in here.
Yeah. In this last one, they evidently modified their equipment because their signal extended from the radar limit seaward almost to the coast.
So you figure the next one could do it, huh?
That's right. And then they fold their tents and steal away with enough information to penetrate our warning system anytime they choose. I've been over this thing from every angle. It's all here in the chart, but I just can't find a pattern.
So what do you want me to do?
Record these positions. And see if you can find some sort of relationship that will let us predict the next attempt.
Oh, wait a minute. If you can't figure it out and all the boys in Washington can't figure it out, how do you expect me to figure it out?
I don't. But try. What I want you to do, and for this you're qualified, is to investigate some underwater locations for me.
Ah, now you're in my territory. What do I look for?
That's a good question. First, there has to be some apparatus. Second, it has to be underwater, because we've got this coastline covered on the surface like a dense fog. Find me some jamming machinery.
I took Barney's cue. I began an underwater search. The places that he had suggested were all rough, rocky areas. Good places for hiding, bad places for searching. The whole area had been fine-combed electronically, but nothing had been found. It's an awfully big ocean, full of caves, rock formations, and forests of seaweed. I began feeling that this business was a waste of time. I used up 2 tanks of air and a lot of patience and found nothing. I hoped Barney was doing better from his angle. As it turned out, I didn't have to wait long for that answer. Barney was aboard the boat when I surfaced.
What are you doing here? I had to come. I got something important to tell you.
Well, about this radar thing?
That's right. We got some information that whoever is jamming the radar is definitely based in this section. The coast is covered with men from the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy.
Yeah? Is that important, huh?
That's right. We figure this next attempt will give them all the information they need. We've got to stop that, Mike.
Got an idea how?
Well, we've got to make some sense from this jamming pattern. Every time I think I have a logical pattern mapped out, it vanishes. We've got to have more information, and that's where you come in.
I'll be glad to help in any way I can. You know that.
Well, you know a lot of people up and down this coast. I want you to talk to them. Fishermen, salvage operators, hack skippers, anybody that might have a radar set.
Oh, I see. You want me to find out if anybody's run into this sort of thing and not reported it, huh?
That's right. And, Mike, if we miss, we may be in for a lot of trouble.
And we better not miss.
I started asking questions at the most logical place. I got no useful answers. I went direct to fishermen. Modern fishermen carry radar equipment, but they might not pay attention to an infrequent display of electronic scrambled eggs on their screens. I asked a lot of questions, and when one man couldn't tell me anything, I asked him about his friends. From all of them, I got a great big negative no. Finally, I got a break. A fisherman named Tony Luciata had encountered a blind spot that no one else had recorded. Tony was voluble and eager to tell me all about it. So eager that at first I couldn't quite believe him.
You sure about that date now, Tony? It's very important.
Sure, I'm sure. Oh, let me tell you, on that day I ran into the biggest school of albacore you ever saw. I know it's the right date.
Oh, that's great. Now, can you give me the approximate time and location?
Prox, I give you exact time, latitude, longitude. That was a big school of albacore. I want to make sure that I go back to the same place. And I don't want to make no mistake, so I put it all in the log. You want to see?
Yeah, I sure would.
All right, come and show it.
Tony's information was the missing piece. Without it, the pattern made no logical sense. And with it, it was possible to predict the time and the place of the next attempt at jamming. I worked it all out. Then I rechecked the figures. Based on the jamming that Barney Adams had recorded, plus the one Tony had now supplied, it came out like this. The next attempt would be made today, sometime while the tide was at full flood. My tide tables put it closer. Flood tide would last from 2:18 to 2:50. That gave me 20 minutes to find a human needle in a saltwater haystack. I found the area and prepared to go underwater. I had no idea what I'd find. I knew only that there was no time to wonder if my theory was right. I had to get in there and find out. I began my dive as close as possible to the spot that I'd calculated for the next disturbance. If my figures were right, I'd find myself in the middle of the blind spot. I began to place a buoy to mark the center of a search pattern. Then I realized that if enemy divers were here, my life might depend on seeing them before they saw me. I'd have to use underwater landmarks for reference. The tide was now at full flood, but nothing was happening.
I continued to search, knowing my radar set would give me instant notice of the jammer in operation. Some distance away, where I couldn't see him, a diver emerged from the rocks, carrying a curious electronic gadget. It was the jammer, all right, and the diver. He was preparing to turn it on for his last test of our defense system. The device was so powerful that electronic currents set up by it could be deadly at close range. It was operated by a remote control. As the jammer warmed up, the electrical field induced around it caused electrolysis of the water. Suddenly, I was getting a blind spot on the scope. It was a tremendous signal interference, more powerful than my first encounter with it. I knew that I must be close to the source. By turning the scope, I found the strongest disturbance when I faced north. I headed straight in that direction. The disturbance was increasing. I knew I had it now. In my hurry, I hadn't been cautious enough. I was spotted first. If I hadn't used the back of my hand, the electrical shock would have killed me. But I was marked for death another way now. The spear missed, but the diver plunged for me. When his spear gun hit the jamming device, he took the full force of the electrical output. I didn't know if he was dead or not. I moved up with him as fast as I could. When we surfaced, my prisoner was still alive, but I didn't know for how long. Then I saw that beautiful Coast Guard cutter coming in. The jammer had been on long enough this time for them to get a fix, and a good thing it was, for me.
See if you can revive him.
He had a good jolt from that jammer down there. It's no fun. I had a taste of it myself.
We have to bring him out of it. He has some questions to answer. You did a fine job, Mike.
All I did was apply your theory. Once I had the additional information from that fisherman, it was a cinch.
It's never a cinch when you're 50 feet down with a man who's trying to kill you.
I hate to break this up, but this radar screen looks like a plate of hamburger. But that thing is still jamming up the signal.
Mike.
How'd you hate people to go off and leave things running?
Hello there. I'm Lloyd Bridges. You know, 3/5 of the world is covered by the sea. And how little most of us know about that underwater world. Go below with us again next week, huh? For another thrilling adventure in Sea Hunt.
This device is an experimental underwater radio. I was transmitting a voice signal to my friend Chuck Ballard, the inventor of it. He was a member of my underwater flotilla in the Coast Guard Auxiliary. We were making some tests on the transmitter-receiver, hoping to present it to the Navy. I had left Chuck a few hundred feet away. He was going to home in on my signal. It was taking too long. I was beginning to worry. Something was wrong. I didn't have much air left, and that meant that Chuck didn't either. If he didn't surface soon, he never would. My radio unit overboard and rigged it to operate from the deck.
Chuck, where are you? I'm on the boat. Chuck, where are you? I'm on the boat. Chuck, if you're in trouble, send up a signal. A flare, mark a buoy, anything.
I didn't see any bubbles within a reasonable range. I couldn't imagine why Chuck hadn't surfaced, unless he was in trouble.
Chuck, I'm going to spiral out. I'm going to try to locate your bubbles. If you hear me, Chuck, I'm spiraling out, and I'm going to try to locate your bubbles.
I was hundreds of yards from my starting point. How could Chuck have wandered any farther? Bubbles. Must be Chuck. But what was wrong? Bubbles led me right to him. I was so relieved to see him alive and well that I didn't notice how surprised he was to see me. He wanted me to listen to his unit. That clear signal was coming in. And it wasn't from my instrument on the boat. It was impossible for the signal to be coming in. Yet there it was. We were soon to find out just how sinister it was.
What do you suppose that is, huh? No idea. I thought it was your signal. I was trying to home in on it. 600 yards in the opposite direction. 600 yards? Yeah. You better start looking at that compass of yours, boy. I thought I'd lost you for good. What could it be? Must have been your signal bouncing off one of the shoals. I've been using my throat mic. Anyway, I haven't used the URC for the past 45 minutes. Well, maybe it was some kind of above-surface signal reflected underwater. I don't say it's likely, but it's possible. You didn't hear me talking, do you? No. I just tuned till I heard a signal. That's the one I got. Mike, something weird going on down there. How'd you like to do a little investigating, huh? You mean track it? Yeah, with the URC. We'll trail it over the side of the boat and do intentionally what you did by accident. We'll home in on the beam. Here, rig it the topside, huh?
It took a little while to determine our course, but once we established the direction of the beam, we maintained a good speed for several miles out to sea.
How's it going? Getting stronger. Mike, if that's the strongest point, you better turn back. Easy, Mike. That's it.
The signal appeared to come from a large bed of seagrasses, just a few yards away. We were certainly right on top of the source of the beam. All we could see was thick plants, more dangerous than we suspected. I indicated to Chuck that he should wait, while I circled out cautiously. Chuck had found some kind of a metal rod hidden in the plants. Before I could stop him, he had brushed against it. He was stunned by a heavy electric shock. I couldn't tell how badly he'd been hurt. He was conscious. That's all I knew. Then I saw something that worried me even more. It was a submarine, apparently heading out from shore. It had no markings. It was bottoming. Instinctively, I looked for a place to hide. Chuck was still not fully recovered. My fear was justified. A frogman from the sub was already heading our way. Luckily, he seemed to be looking for anyone. As he passed, I got a good look at the weapon in his hand. It was a portable version of the device that had almost electrocuted Chuck. The frogman manipulated a hidden switch. He moved past us again to the device that Chuck had found. Then he swam back to the sub.
He was standing where I stood. Nothing happened. He also turned off the signal. Come on. There. Switch. The electricity. That's all. It's on. Let's investigate. It's an underwater radio beacon. Condensers. They get power from the beacon. Electric gun. You set this off. Pow. Let's go up.
As far as they're up to. Something they shouldn't be, that's for sure. That sub was heading out from shore. I'm gonna take another look at that chart. Now, here's our position now. And here's where we first picked up the beam. See what happens when we draw a straight line through those 2 points, huh? That way it brings us. Right there.
U.S. government property. Restricted.
See, here's shoals on either side, except for this one narrow channel.
Yeah, that's exactly where the beam is aimed.
That beam would take a sub navigating an instrument so close to shore it would be a cinch for a diver to go the rest of the way.
Oh, I see. That's pretty clever. When they come to this point, they turn on the beacon. Then they use the beams and navigate among the shoals. On the way out, they turn it off again. What could be simpler?
I'm more devastated. We better call the Coast Guard right now.
An hour later, we had explained our encounter to Commander Barney Adams of the Coast Guard.
It's diabolical. An underwater beacon is something a lot of people have been trying to perfect for years. But how did that sub get by our coastal sonar?
Oh, it's possible that it moved in under a thermocline. Sonar could have missed it that way.
Well, we'll soon know. The Navy's keeping us informed. We missed our chance to apprehend the sub, that's sure.
Oh, I wouldn't be too sure about that. Might have another chance.
Why do you say that?
From the looks of that beacon, it's been down there quite a while.
You think they're making regular trips? Pardon. Hello? Yes, Tom. Well, what'd you find out? Well, how'd that sub get through? Mm-hmm. I see. No, nothing definite yet. We may need your help later on. All right, thanks, Tom. That was the Navy. No evidence of anything wrong at the installation. You were right, Mike. There was a thermocline at the time. The sub could have used it for cover.
So what are you going to do now? I mean, if and when the sub returns.
Well, the sub could get by sonar again, couldn't it?
Well, but if it navigates by that beacon, which it undoubtedly will, our URC units will pick up the signal.
Except we couldn't stay underwater indefinitely just waiting for it.
No. But we could set up a 24-hour watch on shore. I think this is the way we'd do it. We'd submerge our underwater receivers in the path of that radio beam. And as soon as the beacon came on, we'd tune into the signal. Maybe we should get it.
I feel it only fair to warn you that if you're coming up with a sound, workable plan, make sure it's very sound and very workable. Because I'm assuming I can tell the Navy that you two are going to volunteer for this job.
Commander Adams meant what he said. We were in this up to our necks, starting immediately. These men were members of the Coast Guard Auxiliary and my underwater flotilla. They were top-notch divers. Earlier that afternoon, we'd explained our overall plan. Chuck and I will be based here, near the research station, so we'll be able to intercept anyone going to and from the sub. Now, the moment that we contact you by radio, you're to proceed directly by cutter to this beacon here. And then you can just head in toward us, where Chuck and I are located here, huh? How's that clear?
Oh, one more thing. If for any reason you have to tackle one of those electric guns, just remember the charge is deadly. But they don't seem to have very big batteries. After the gun's been fired once, it takes time for them to build up voltage again. Not much, but maybe important.
Well, it is. Well, I guess that's it. Got any questions? Mm-hmm. Better report to Commander Adams right away, huh? Our listening station was a converted stockroom close to the beach. We had food, bunks, our diving gear, and amplifiers for our underwater receivers. On the beach, we connected our units to a long cable from the stockroom. When I placed the receivers underwater, we were ready for our monitoring assignment. Yes, sir, I will. Right.
What did the commander have to say?
What he's been saying for the last couple of days. When's it going to happen?
Well, it's only been 4 days. Why is he so pessimistic?
Oh, he isn't really. He's just concerned. I don't blame him. Quite a responsibility. It was several days more before anything happened. This is it. Come on, get up. Umpire to shortstop. Umpire to shortstop. Over.
Shortstop, this is umpire.
Alert here. Any report?
Sonar negative. Thermocline conditions reported. Proceed with plan. Over.
Roger and out. Only a few minutes later, we were underwater. Our scheme had worked, but we had no idea what we'd run into. We figured that we knew roughly where the sub would stop. Our plan was to observe its activities, maybe even intercept a diver if we could. We spotted bubbles in the distance. A frogman was swimming toward shore. armed with the same kind of electric gun that we'd seen before. I figured that despite the gun, the two of us might capture him. Let's follow him. The frogman was joined by another, also armed. The odds were too much now against us. We'd have to keep out of sight. Control your bubbles and don't move. They were moving on past me. But they had seen Chuck. They were heading straight for him. I had to do something. I stirred up a cloud of sand and released a marker buoy on a short line. It worked. Both frogmen discharged their electric guns at my decoy. That gave Chuck the chance that he needed. While he wrestled with one, I grappled with the other. My opponent was skilled at judo. He pushed me off with a foot on my chest and shot the gun at me. The voltage hadn't built up yet, but it was enough to stun me. Then he turned to get Chuck, but he couldn't get Chuck without hitting the other frogman. I came to in time to see Chuck still struggling with one of them, and the other drawing his knife. I pulled out my knife. I had the advantage of surprise now and cut his air hose before he knew what happened. He wasn't finished yet. He needed air, fast. He went for mine. He tugged viciously at my mouthpiece. I was still groggy from the shot, but I held on. I heard the electric gun and looked up. The frogman was electrocuted. One of my flotilla men had found us and shot him with his own gun. He saw that Chuck had the other frogman as prisoner, so he helped me. We all surfaced together.
Thought I had it. I can't thank you enough, Pete.
Semper Paratus, Mike. Semper Paratus.
It's a good thing you were punctual. Another minute would have been too late.
What about those divers? Who were they, you know?
Well, the one below that got it can't talk, and this one won't. He was an employee at the installation. Inside his wet suit, we found some microfilm with extremely important data.
And the sub?
Well, the Navy is... Well, the Navy is taking good care of it.
That reminds me. Do you think we'll have to make any more tests of this for the Navy?
Once they get that sub, I think they'll be convinced.
Hi there. I'm Lloyd Bridges. Skin diving is certainly a lot of fun, and it's full of adventure. See some more of it again next week, huh? When there'll be another excursion into that fabulous underwater world of Sea Hunt.